set up, this whole phone live streaming, which is new to me. Welcome to the 3 people that are here already. I'm so sorry for the zooming in and out. I don't know how to set that before we begin. So there. It's always a little stressful when you learn something new, right? So we are going to be working on black paper. If you don't have the Canson tints, that's fine. If you got black cardstock, that should be fine as well. And I'm using the smooth side of the paper. So if you've got a sheet of Canson tints, either in a pad or a full sheet, you'll see one side, the back side's a little smoother, and the front side has a little more texture. And I like to use the front side for pastel, and I like to use the back side for for doing colored pencil or anything where I want that smoother look. The pencils that we're using today are the Derwent Chromaflow, and they are a set of 24. They come in sets of 12 or 24. That's as many as they have. And it's a really nice little set. It blends really well. They're quite opaque. I also have a little solvent, a little Gamsol here in case I want to use it. I don't know if I will or not. It's really not that necessary, but it's nice to have it on hand. I keep it in a little mason jar like this with some cotton balls in there and I just put enough to saturate the cotton balls, and that makes it so it won't spill. And also when I dip my brush in there, I don't get too much, because if you get too much, you can kind of wash away your pigment a bit, and it's just kind of a waste. So hopefully that's helpful. I'm just going to see if I can turn this a little bit. I feel like I'm kind of back a little too far. All right, I am going to open my chat here so I can see it. I will have a few places where I ask for questions in case you guys have anything to ask, and we're just gonna get right into it. This is so weird, you working on my phone by myself. All right, so I'm gonna set, you know what, I think I'll set my reference right next to me, so that might be a little easier. I do have a link to the photo that I used on Unsplash if you want to check that out. I'm just standing up to see. I wonder if I can zoom in just a smidgen more. Ooh, can I? Oh, gosh, this is like so little. It's so touchy. It's so touchy. I'm not gonna mess with it. I think I'm gonna make you guys totally seasick if I do that. Oh, so nice to see some friendly faces. Okay, not that I've ever seen unfriendly faces. We're gonna start off with the white. And if you don't have Chromaflow pencils, if you have Colorsoft, if you have Lightfast, those will work really well. Prismacolors will work really well. Anything that's kind of on the opaque side. And we are going to start by drawing our green apple first. And what I like to do, because I'm working on black paper, you can erase a bit, so you don't have to worry too much about making a mistake. But I actually use my pinky finger to draw, and I get that kind of that feeling drawing from my shoulder, getting that feeling out. Where is that going to end up? And then when I feel like I've got a good circle in my mind's eye, then I touch it to the paper and I make my circle. Drawing from the shoulder will give you much smoother results. Now my next one, as I drop my pencil on the paper, the next one kind of has a bit of a flatter top, because you've got the bottom of this apple is like right about there. So that's where like the bottom, not stem, but the opposite part of the stem, like the stem would be on the opposite side, that's there. So you get a nice round apple there. This one's going to be a little bit more squared off, because the stem would actually be kind of, the core would be going that way through the apple. So this one is a little bit different of a shape. This was so fun to draw, and I'm thinking it would be a really cool series to do, like a series of like fruit and vegetables in produce bags. All right, so once you've got the 2 apples, then you can put the plastic around them. You really want the apples in first, because your plastic is going to pull against the shape. So it's going to be kind of tight around the objects. This is where we have the nut in the bag. I'm drawing really light because I don't want to have to erase. I'm actually going to make this apple a little bit. I might make both of them a little bit bigger, actually. like, yeah, a little bit bigger would be fun. These are fun to draw. And take your time with your drawing because you will never regret it. If I have regrets in my pictures, it's usually because I have been too hasty with my drawing because I've been excited to get to the fun coloring part, and then I've regretted it. So now we've got this like bit of bag, like the corner of the bag that's not tight against the fruit that's kind of drips down here. That's really fun to draw. So we want to get that in there. We don't want to skimp out on that. We're going to draw that little corner of the bag. And then we've got this big, almost jellyfish type like shape up here. And just make it fill your space. I mean, my two are not going to be identical. Not at all. And you get so many interesting little shapes in here. They're really fun to draw. All those little crinkles and wrinkles. It's very abstract. It'd be neat to do kind of like a trash series where you just kind of like draw trash and you make it look make people look at it in a new way. All right, if you do have anything to clean up, if you have a kneaded eraser, that will work really well. You can try pressing and lifting. I also find an electric eraser works really well with these pencils. The electric eraser is going to be the most abrasive, so I try with my more gentler erasers first. And Can't See Me Tints is a pastel paper. It's not meant for like watercolor, so it doesn't have a lot of sizing in it, so it is going to be a little weaker than other papers. Okay, I'm just going to take a quick look at the chat to see if anybody has any questions this far, but I will take a break later on to ask for questions. And Joe Maskey is in there in the chat. He's an awesome moderator, and he will also answer your questions because he knows what's what. All right, let me get back down to the hello, everybody. It's so nice to see so many familiar faces and some fresh faces too. So fun. Okay. So the first thing I like to do when I'm doing a subject like this is I try to block in my colors so I don't lose anything. I am going to take some yellow here, and I notice I've got some smudges on there, so I'm going to grab a scrap of paper. And if you notice that like the tip of your pencil has like another color on it because maybe you did some like blending, you can kind of scribble it off and get those colors out. All right, I am going to start on the yellow spot on this red apple, and very lightly, very little pressure, I am going to put that yellow spot in right there. Oh, I just want to check and make sure I'm not getting a lot of glare really quick. Okay, I'm so sorry that this is crooked. I don't know why my phone is like crooked. I'll turn my paper so it's right, so it's not so crooked. All right, I think that's going all right. We're going to put in this creamy yellow spot here. There we go. And there's also one up here. Very light pressure though. You should not be bearing down on your paper at all. Just let the tooth of the paper grab the pencil. I'm doing large ovals. You do not have to be particular here. I'll try to zoom in a little bit. Oh my gosh, it's so difficult to, there we go. I think that will work. It looks straight on my phone, but it looks kind of crooked on the monitor. So I actually did record this when I first drew it. I didn't narrate it, but I recorded it. So if this all goes to pot, then I can always just go in and use the recording, time lapse it or something. I'm going to also grab a little of that same color and add it to this green apple on top. See how I'm kind of putting it, it almost looks like parentheses, how I'm doing that around the stem. And then I'm also going to put some down here because it's going to have a little bit of reflected color from that bottom apple. Light, light, guys. If your hands hurt, you're pressing too hard. I'm barely holding onto this pencil. We want to preserve that tooth so we can go in with more pressure at the end if we want to blend things together and get that rich, waxy luster. All right, now I'm going to go with this bright green. This is called grass green. What I love about these pencils is that they print gold on black, on a matte black, so I can read it. I have the hardest time reading some pencils, and it's frustrating if I'm trying to do a tutorial and tell people what we're using, because it's like, I don't know, I can't read that. That's just, it's too tiny. My middle-aged eyes can't take it. Now, with very little pressure, you're getting some nice results. And I also want to mention that there is no law that says you have to have your color pencil artwork being completely burnished and like looking like an oil painting. You do not need to do that. You can do a painting and have it look a little grainy. There's nothing, it'll look kind of like it's on velvet or something, and that's fine. You don't have to have it. You don't have to have it burnished. If that bothers your wrist, then don't do it. I'm going to sharpen this. This is a comb sharpener. I'm not going to use my electric because I don't want to freak out anybody with headphones on, because I know it's so loud. So I'm going to use this one. I like to use my electric sharpener though, because I find I get much less breakage with soft pencils with my electric sharpener. I know there's a lot of people disagree with me, and you can do whatever you want to do, but I like my electric sharpener for that. As long as you're putting an even coat, you really don't need to worry about your pencil direction at this time. As we start to put more color in, you will, because you'll be filling the tooth and you really want to make sure the strokes count. But for right now, we're just going in and getting those colors blocked in. Now, when I am doing the edges though, I don't want sloppy edges. So I will, try to go with the contour on my edges. And remember, this is nature. Apples are nature. There's no perfect spheres. There's no, there's bumps, there's flat edges, there's patches of color that are off. There are bruises and scrapes. And those are the things that I think make paintings more interesting. Very little pressure. This can be a little tedious to watch, I'm sure, but hey, you got good company in the chat, and you guys can visit if you get bored watching me. I'm sure everybody's got maybe somebody has seen some good April Fool's pranks or jokes. Every year I think, oh, I'm going to come up with something so creative. Then I never do. And sometimes I think, well, it's kind of mean to fool people. I don't want to I don't want to confuse somebody, or, I don't know. I feel like April Fool's Day used to be a much bigger thing. I don't think I saw one single April Fool's video today, but I haven't really been online very much. Oh, if you guys have some good recommendations for pencil sharpeners and you want to share them in chat, people always ask me, but my sharpener, except for this long point comb sharpener, which I've lost the lid for it, so it doesn't look like that when you look at it online. Other than that, my electric sharpener is discontinued. So if you guys have ones you're really happy with that you want to share, go for it. I threw one away the other day because it was awful. It was a T-Gal multi-point. I had really bad luck with that. I don't know if I got a dud or if they're just not very good. But other than that, I don't really have like preferences or warnings about sharpeners. So if anybody wants to share what their favorite is, please do, because I think that would be really helpful. Something else I like to do when I'm working with colored pencils, it's not that important with a limited selection like this, but like if I'm using a larger set like that has 100, 120 colors, what I do is I take the colors that I'm using and I put them in a tray. And I find that very helpful for that way I always grab just the right color that I've been using, and I don't grab like a weird green or a weird red. I'm going to grab this sun yellow, which is kind of like a lemony yellow. It's a little bit cooler in tone, and I'm going to go in and start adding that into the highlight areas here on this apple. Now, as you start to build up your layers, you're gonna hit a point where you're like, oh, I gotta press a little harder here because I can't get the color that I want. And with these Chromaflows, they're very soft, and I find that it's kind of like you kind of get 3 light layers before you have to start increasing your pressure. Now I tend to use colored pencils as like on top of watercolor and stuff, so I don't do too many like straight colored pencil pieces like I did here. So, you know, certainly don't take my word as gospel on traditional colored pencil. There are much more qualified people you can learn from. All right, I'm going to skip back down to this one. We're going to start laying down some reds. Now this set, I wish they used the color Derwent red in this set, but they don't. So it is kind of lacking a really bright red. So we're going to be using both of these reds, but we're actually also going to use some of this, I think it's magenta, because we're going to need that crispness in some of the shadows. So we'll actually be using these 1, 2, 3 reds there. I'm actually going to start off with the magenta this time because I didn't last time and I had some difficulty getting those deeper tones. So I'm going to start off with the magenta. I'm actually going to lighten up my white outlines first because I don't want it to go pink on me. So just a press and lift when you want to lighten your drawing. If you're not removing a mistake, you're just lightening, just a press and lift. And I don't like to use kneaded erasers on my watercolor paper because they do have a bit of an oil to them, and I'm afraid it might cause my paint to resist. So I don't use them on my watercolors. I know some people do, but I personally don't, and that's why. You can do what you want to do. Colored pencils on black paper are really nice if you're using a wax-based pencil, because a wax-based pencil is more opaque. And by wax-based pencils, these Chromaflows are wax-based, Prismacolor, Premier are wax-based, Derwent Color Soft are wax-based. They all stand out really well on the black paper. It's so pretty. Your oil-based pencils tend to be a little more translucent, so they have a little harder time to stand up on the darker paper. And I'm just using a real light touch with this as well. I just wanted to get these edges where it is a little bit darker. We don't want to fill in any tooth yet because we still have some of those plastic folds from the plastic bags to be able to add in there. So we got to make sure we're still going to be able to do that. And I didn't use any like gel pen or any other thing than the pencils on that. So we can do it. We don't need to get anything extra. Okay. I'm going to do a little bit more. Actually, I think I'll even grab in some orange. Very light layers. My favorite part in a painting is when you build up the layers and then everything starts to blend like and mix. And these colors mix really well. So don't be discouraged that there's only 24 colors. You can mix. And honestly, it's probably good for your art that you do some mixing versus having everything just the perfect color already, because you're going to get much more interesting tones. Now, as I apply my color here, I am kind of going an up and down stroke because there's going to be folds in the bag that go that way. So I'm just going to be helping to kind of build that illusion by making my strokes be a little longer and a little up and downy. If you guys have questions, I'll be looking for questions in about 5 minutes. So just kind of, if you at The Frugal Crafter. It should show up with an orange bar, and also type the word question in all caps, and then it'll catch my eye when I go look for questions in a couple minutes. Now we're going to go with the Scarlet, and I'm going to sharpen that just a little bit. And I know I should turn the sharpener and not my hand, but you know, I cannot get, I'm used to electric sharpener. I just can't get into that. I can't get into that, that groove. A sharp pencil will get into the nooks and crannies of your paper, and you'll get a more uniform, look. Honestly, I don't tend to bother sharpening, keeping a sharp point until I'm starting to get into like layer 3, because I don't want to clog the tooth. I don't want to fill it up. But you know, you're going to hear people disagree with that. I'm not saying that anyone's right or wrong. You do what you want to do. I have links to the reference photo and the supplies that I used in the video description. I have links to Amazon and Blick. So you can shop where you want to if you need any of these things. Don't be afraid to turn your paper. All right, I'm going to do the edge of my pencil, just do a real light coating here. And also when you use the edge of your pencil, you can kind of turn it, and you can sharpen the point a little bit without wasting any lead. Now these unfortunately do not have open stock availability, so if you ran out, you'd have to buy a set. I hope they're going to bring the open stock availability, because everything else that Derwent sells does have that. So I would assume that that's just something they haven't, they're just kind of seeing if it's a hit first, maybe. Maybe they're testing the waters. They're only available, I think, in the United States and India. Now I'm using the strawberry, which is a little bit cooler of a red, and I am not really burnishing. I'm not pressing hard. I'm just kind of putting a layer over the yellow and the red I just did. I kind of feel like my lead's going to break. Do you ever get that feeling? You can just feel that there's a crack in the lead. Oh shoot, I went over the lines. All right, I'm gonna grab my trusty electric eraser. This is a quick fix from Jerry's Artorama. I got it on sale for like $4.99 like many years ago, and I'm telling you, this comes with what will be a lifetime supply of eraser refills. It has like, this is like, I'm on my second or third little eraser here. It is so funny. It comes with this humongous box of, well, humongous in relative terms, I guess, to that eraser. But it was such a, and it was all for $4.99. It was crazy. All right, so now we're going to go in. I'm going to take some white, and I want to get the highlight on this apple. It's one of the brightest white spots here. Oh, let me look for questions first before we go on to that. See if we have any. Carrie asks, when you swatch out your pencils to see how many layers, how do you choose which color to use for that test? Or do you do most of them? Oh, no, I don't do most of them. I pick one. I usually pick like a purple or a brown. I usually go for a dark color so I can really see the difference between the layers. Purples are usually, dark purples are usually a good one, or like a dark, like reddish brown, something like that. Something that's kind of easy to see. I only do one of them. I'm only particular when I'm doing reviews for my own use. If I wasn't reviewing a product, I wouldn't even bother swatching them. I would just look at the lead when I need a color. I rarely refer to the swatch unless I'm doing a tutorial and I need to like say a color number. I have not swatched out my Prismacolors. They're the one, I don't think I guess I did review Prismacolors like a couple of years ago because there were so many quality control problems that had been happening. And I ordered a new set to see like if they were as bad as people were saying, because the prices have gone so good. And I did review them at that point. I just compared my new ones versus my old barrel Prismacolors versus the Sanford ones from the 90s, just to see, you know, how the new box off Blick compared, and they were fine. I do think there was a point there where they were breaking a lot. They were not up to snuff, but yeah, they were fine. But other than that, I mean, I swatched out the ones from that box, and I swatched out the matches that I had just as a comparison. But I only really need swatches for transparent media like watercolor and alcohol markers, because I find that with opaque media, what you see is what you get. What you see what you see on your palette, what you see on the tip of the lead is what you get. So it's up to you. I mean, it is kind of a fun activity to kind of break the ice, you know, getting to know a product. And it is, you know, it's one of the first things I do when I'm preparing for a review, because I need to, I don't know, I guess I want firm, what's the word, as unbiased as possible information. So by doing a swatch is just a good way to gather information. I'm doing that little skin around the bottom. Only scroll back. Any other questions? Wow, you guys are easy today, or Joe's taking care of them all. All right, I don't see any other questions, but if I missed your question, just at me. Oh, Ian asks, do you like working on black page more than a white page with this type of pencil? I like it both, Ian. In general, I prefer toned paper myself. Like I usually like a craft color. That's my preference generally. All right, so I'm gonna bring this highlight down a little bit. I'm just doing little circles. Not a lot of pressure because I know I need to put the creases from the bag in there. I gotta watch out. I keep looking up at the chat while I'm coloring and not looking at my paper. Let's see, now this area in here actually needs to be a little bit lighter. So I'm gonna go right in and add that. And I need to add some highlights over here. So I'm gonna go here where that yellow spot is, where it is a little bit lighter. And I might need to sharpen so I can get that pencil down into the nooks and crannies. If you've never tried colored pencil on toned paper before, you give it a try. It might just change your life. It's nice because if you're frustrated with how long colored pencil takes, then working on a toned paper just like cuts your time in half because you've got all this work done by having a background in. Or work over a watercolor wash. You can make your own tone paper. Just take watercolor paper and add a wash of color. It doesn't have to be the best watercolor paper in the world. In fact, colored pencil does really well on crappy watercolor paper that is, you know, just a disappointment that maybe you like regret buying. Try it, try pastels on it, try colored pencils on it. It'll probably be fine. Usually it's a sizing that's not on watercolor paper that's not impressive. It's usually problems with the sizing or maybe the fiber length, but that really doesn't, it's not going to bother you so much when you're working on a dry media because it doesn't have to withstand the water. All right, just want to make sure I get some of these lighter areas in here before I start burnishing so that I don't lose them. Oh, thanks for reminding to thumbs up. If you hit that thumbs up button, that is awesome. It really helps people find my channel. And in this day and age, I will take all the help I can get. This is a really pretty green. This one is called Foliage. You'll probably recognize some of these names because they are names that Derwent uses a lot in their products. So the numbers are not the same. These are numbered 1 to 24 in this set, but they use the same colors over and over again. So if you're familiar with like their Color Soft or their Light Fast, their other lines, you'll probably recognize a lot of the colors. Now this color is nice, and it's pretty much close to the local color of this apple, so I can just pretty much color over this. Now I'm not pressing hard, but because I have a fine point, it's really blending what I've got going on. I'm doing ovals, like kind of long ovals, just because I want to hit all those little grain, all that grain, and I want to blend in all that grain, but I'm not using pressure. I'm using a sharp point, so I turn my pencil as I go, and that preserves that sharp point, so I don't have to keep sharpening and keep wasting lead. And I want to talk about the surface that I have underneath my paper, because I really had this kind of like Durfy moment. I was working on the other side of this mat is the black mat you usually see in my videos, and I was drawing, and I had that, the black side up, just like I always do. And my paper, and what it was because I cut on the other place, I had used like an X-Acto knife on the mat with drawing, and then I realized, well, I could just flip it over and use the other side. So if you have a self-healing as a work surface, keep one side uncut so you can flip it over and use it as a drawing surface. Or you could also put your paper on a clipboard and have a nice surface that way. I don't like a surface that's too soft or too hard, so I find that a self-healing mat is really nice, a really nice surface. And you can find those in the quilting section of any department store or big box store, or you can, order them online. They're usually a lot cheaper online because I don't know why quilting mats are so expensive, but they're crazy expensive. If you go to Joann's, you could use a coupon and it would be a bit cheaper. But you probably even find them at Walmart. I don't know about Target. I don't know if they have much of a craft section, but last I knew Walmart did. I got a really big mat ones. I'm sure there's different qualities and stuff, but for drawing or cutting, I find they're all very similar. Hope this isn't too tedious. We're getting crazy downpour rainstorms today. I'm so glad it's not snow. We usually get snow on April Fool's Day. I like to work quickly. When I work with colored pencils, I'm usually zipping right along because I love seeing like the tooth get filled in, and I like to see it come together. I like watching time lapses of colored pencil stuff too, just because it's so satisfying to see it all come together. Long ovals. I know it just looks like I'm scribbling back and forth, but it's long ovals. Blending into the white a little bit, turning my pencil to keep it nice and sharp. I can go over the white because I know I can give it another coat and it will be fine. I haven't filled the paper up yet. And everyone's going to have their different Goldilocks paper, that paper that's, not too rough, not too smooth, just right, will take just enough layers without it taking like 3.5 weeks to do a picture. Everyone's going to have their own version of what that is. A lot of people love pastel mat. I found pastel mat to be very frustrating with colored pencil because I felt like it was just taking forever to get anything done. But other people love it, because they want to put 18, 20 layers on a picture, and that's fine. If that's your personality and that's what you like, then that's what you should do. So, don't take anyone's opinion on what the best paper is to heart until you've tried it yourself. Oftentimes you can buy little sample packs, and that's a really great way to get to know paper. I like to use I like a lot of papers. I like the Strathmore mixed media paper because it has you can get the tone paper, which I really like, and I can do my underpainting in like gouache, or I could do markers, or I could do watercolors, and then I could go over with the colored pencils to tighten things up and make things nice and smooth. And it just saves a lot of time, and but more importantly, it gives me the look that I like. Now here I have to use a little bit more pressure if I want to get that yellow in there. Okay, so now I want to kind of bring this one up here. I'm going to look at my camera real quick to make sure. Okay, yep. Sometimes I'm not sure what you guys are seeing, so I had to peek in my camera. I'm going to go in with some yellow. I'm going to use the sun yellow, which is that brighter, more lemony one. Little circles over this where we applied the white last time. Now, reds are kind of tricky. Reds tend to be transparent in color pencil, even like your more opaque pencils. Your reds will still give you a bit of a hard time to stand up on black paper. I always use the analogy of painting a wall red because I love red walls. I have a red accent wall with red doors. Those are and they're the most frustrating things to paint because it's such a transparent color. That nice, lipstick red is like such a difficult color to work with. But it's my favorite color. I love that color. But it's so transparent. So you do have to kind of really watch your values, and you're almost getting the impression of red. I think if you looked at this apple, it looks red because it's next to green. It's really not very red. So you've got to use an opposite color like green to make it look more red. You've got to really make sure your values are there to make it look red enough. It's a very tricky color, and it can be very frustrating to work with. But, it's your favorite color. What are you going to do, right? So as I put in some yellow to pop those colors, yellow's a little more opaque, so it's going to help that red be more red, basically. I'm starting to use a little more pressure. I want to get into that tooth. I want to make sure that I'm getting as much as I can out of it. Now I'm going to have some folds in this bag coming through here, so I'm actually throwing them in with the yellow because they would have some of that reflected color in there. And I can do that over here as well because the yellow will work with both the green and that red. So I'll get a little bit of that. It's looking good, I think. All right. That's kind of just reminding me that, okay, I need to have some white there eventually, so I can't go too overboard. Now I'm back with the strawberry with the lead that may break. I can feel it's wiggling, man. I can feel it's wiggling, but I got that nice long lead. I don't want to waste it. I might have to go to the electric sharpener and warn everybody with headphones because I just feel like this one's gonna snap on me. I'm gonna go as long as I can though. Don't want to waste it. I wish I could like look at chat and color at the same time, but I have a feeling that I would be all over the place. I keep peeking. Oh, and next time, if you guys have any questions about the Chromaflow, okay, there we go, it snapped. Just put it in the chat. Now, I am going to use the loud, obnoxious electric sharpener. I apologize, but I gotta do it. Such a horrible sound. There we go. Terrible sound, but great results. I don't know what I'm gonna do when this one breaks. I'll have to find a replacement. It's a Foray brand, which I think is what like Office Depot or Office Max sells. We don't have those stores here, but I got it at a surplus salvage store. Just on a whim. I just needed a pencil sharpener and I grabbed it, and it's been the best one. I have been using this for years. So now I can use a little more pressure, and I am. So we're now starting to get to the spot where we're putting more pressure down, and it's not going to be extremely noticeable on this red apple because our reds are transparent. I wish they put Derwent red. I would suggest maybe adding a nice true red to this set if you purchase it. These have been kind of hard to find unless you live in the United States or India. It's strange that they're available here first. I have a feeling we're guinea pigs, maybe. I don't know. I'm happy to be a colored pencil guinea pig. I did a full review on these. If you want more information, which I recommend, like finding out more information before you purchase something to know whether you're going to like it or not, because just because one person likes it doesn't mean you will if you don't have the same preferences. Now I'm going to go to Scarlet and I'm going to see, oh shoot, that Scarlet broke. Okay guys, I apologize. Loud, obnoxious sharpener again. Okay. Yeah, I just the handheld ones, and I know my handheld sharpener is sharp because I get a nice long curl when I sharpen, but like it doesn't splinter the wood or anything. I get a nice long wood curl, but it's probably because I'm turning the pencil, not the sharpener, and I'm wiggling it around. And these are a little bit skinnier than a standard pencil, so they do wiggle it in any manual, any sharpener that doesn't have a small hole, like the slightly smaller than normal hole. So you do have that issue as well. Okay, so now I've got a good coating on both of the apples. I'm going to start working on the bag. I'm just going to give this a quick point. Please don't break on me. And your softer pencils are going to be more prone to breakage. So that's just something that to realize no matter what brand you're going to go with. Softer the pencil, the more breakage you're going to have. Kids' pencils are often pretty hard because they need to withstand a kid dropping them on the floor. So try to keep tension between the edge of that apple and the knot in the bag, so you have that believability of that tight bag there. And over here we have some folds. I try to recommend drawing from the shoulder, but some of these little flicks, sometimes you got to do them right from your wrist or right from your elbow, because otherwise you won't maintain the control that you need in the smaller areas. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but my water pump is going, so I apologize for that obnoxious noise. It's the live stream of obnoxious noises. And then these little strokes here next to the yellow strokes that you made give you that little feeling of, reflections in the bag. Now we've got some little crinkles over here. We've got some crinkles in this loose part of the bag. So where the bag is slack, you're going to have folds and crinkles. When you have multiple layers of bag folded over, you're going to see more white because you've got light catching on the facets of those folds and reflecting and giving us that beautiful beautiful light and pattern that we can play in and play with that texture a little bit. Oh, I want a little bit out there, but we're going to leave it. We're not going to worry about it. Now, if your lines get too opaque, that's a great, you can use your Gamsol to go in and kind of break down the wax, because that's what Gamsol does. It breaks down the wax and frees the pigment, so you can use it like almost like a watercolor pencil, but it's going to make it more translucent. So I'm much more likely to use Gamsol on white paper than a toned paper, just because it's going to really mute the opacity, but it's going to help us with that plastic bag effect if you get too white anyway. So now I'm actually going to sharpen this again to get myself a little point, and I'm going to do some longer strokes here on this edge. So again, if you can work from the shoulder and pull the strokes down like that, you'll get a nice smooth stroke. But I know that can be scary because you're not going to have this control that you would have just from your wrist. So you might want to do a few in the air like I'm doing here before you put your pencil down and you start putting those strokes in. But you kind of want that tension, and it's hard to do when you do it slow. It's easier to get that tension when you're doing it fast. And pull the strokes up. You can pull it from either way, either up or down. And then the strokes can also go up towards that apple because you have different places of tension. The knot is providing tension, that side of the apple is providing tension, this surface of the apple is providing some tension, and that corner of the apple is providing some tension. And so that's where you're going to have those pull lines from. So you have some pull lines from here. You have some pull lines from here. The apple touches here. It's touching the edge of the cellophane here. So if I want to start some wrinkles, some lines coming up, I can do that right there. You have some lines kind of coming around like that. Some really strong ones here right on that edge where the apple is really pushing against the cellophane. And turn it if it's too awkward to draw those lines the way that you're sitting, the way that you're standing. Change it. So I can put in more white in here because there's so much folded over cellophane. It looks white right here on this edge. So you're playing with light and reflections here, and you'll have some areas that are dense and some areas that are translucent and thin. Much denser around these two edges here. And then let's see, we've got some interesting shapes. We've got like this corner here, we've got a highlight. So we've got a line going to there, right? And then we get that pulling straight across the face of that, because that's a dimple where you have that, that stem that kind of dimples in. So and I also find doing quick and firm like that helps you scribe that line down. It helps you push because you are putting up quite a bit of pressure there. Hope that makes sense. It might not. I'm telling you, I'm not a proper colored pencil instructor. Lisa over at Lacquery Fine Arts probably just like shaking her head at me. She's like, Lindsay, what are you doing? Now she's a proper colored pencil instructor. If she tells you something contradicts what I say, and it's about colored pencil, then I would go with what she says. And pull some in there. I turn my pencil like I mentioned before because I don't want to sharpen it every 3 seconds. And in here, we've got some like baggy bag here. It's kind of like we're getting a little bit of like a little wrinkles. So I'm just kind of doing a little scribble back and forth. And it's also dragging some of my pencil around, giving me a little bit of color distortion, what do you call it? Oh, it's scattering the light a little bit, scattering the color. It's diffusing the light and color a little bit, which is kind of fun. Actually going to zoom into my reference photo that's on my computer. I'm putting some of these brighter highlights that are down here around this tension area, right? There's the tension and then the slack. So you've got the tension here on the edge of the apple, and then where it goes slack is where you start to see more reflections, more interesting things happening. Very light pressure if you just want those little creases. Sharpen again. Oh, thanks, Gail. Gail says I'm doing a good job. Great. I know I want overall a little bit more milky down here. This part of the bag is a lot lighter. Like it's reflecting more light, essentially. that in. Make sure you have harsh lines, because harsh lines will look like the cellophane. You're not blending in these. You're putting more like little lines. If you need it lighter, you're putting more little scratchy lines, because you're not. This is not a blending thing on the plastic bag. If you want, you could go in. There's a product that actually I found out because of Lisa called Titanium White and Touch Up Texture by the company Brush and Pencil. And if you do need super, super bright whites on top, you can use that and it won't chip off. You can also use a gel pen, but it might chip off. Or a Posca pen, it could chip off just because it's such a waxy surface and it's hard for things to stick to it. If you're working in a sketchbook, I really wouldn't worry about it. But if you're, or if you're even framing it right away and it won't get handled, you're probably fine. But if you do want it to be archival and, last forever, then that's something to consider. I purchased all the brush and pencil products as a treat to myself after completing Inktober 2 years ago, and I really like them all. The only thing I'd warn you about is the fixatives. They can clog, but you just take the nozzles off and you wash them in hot soapy water and they come right back. So don't throw them away if you get them and they clog on you. Those were really, really nice products. I'm so glad I bought them. I'm feeling like these highlights are kind of conflicting with each other. Yeah, they are conflicting. This one's like too low or something. I need to carry that highlight up a little bit higher. Something, it's not quite right. Or maybe bring this one down, fade this one down a little lower. Yeah, I think I could bring this down a little bit lower. All right. And a little bit more up here. I still want to work on these apples, and I'm going to actually go in with some black. And I want to get this dark center of the stem right in here, because I noticed that I haven't drawn that yet. And also there's some shadows next to the folds on the bag that we want to get in there with the dark. Because it's distorting the edges. The bag is actually warping the light and distorting the edges, so we're not seeing a round apple fully. We're seeing like some bits of it being eclipsed, or some of the refractions from the bag, just like with glass, how glass can refract. It's doing the same thing there. It's going to make our bag look more realistic. And it will help give a little separation and depth between these two fruits. And over here, we've got a little more distortion. So when you put the black in, you're also going to be putting it in like you did the white with this kind of scratchy, distorted marks. Kind of like chicken scratches. Add some black into the shadows there. And we're also going to shade this apple with the black, and that should make it feel a little bit more red too. We get a little more depth and we get a little contrast, and that's going to help bring out the redness in the apple as well. All right, we can have a little more black over here on this side of the apple. And we're going to shadow up in here a little bit. I'm going around the really bright parts of the highlight there, the bag highlight. you kind of, I don't know, I kind of anyway, go a little, work a little backwards sometimes because I want to get these different colors in, and I want to make sure that they grab the paper first so they'll be dominant. So like those, if I need a really bright white, I kind of want to get that in before I put darker colors around it in case it won't stick to those darker colors. I also want to get some blues going. I want to grab the, there's a really pale blue here, which I think adds a really nice touch to the cellophane. You can be kind of brave with this color because it's pretty muted, so you don't have to be too worried that you're gonna like overdo it. But it can help, if you have something that's too harsh, it can help soften it a little bit. I also, let's see, I want to use this darker green. I need to sharpen that a bit though. Let's do. And I'm going to put that, I'm going to glaze it over the areas where I put the black, so it's not so harsh. It's going to give me a little shading around the edges of the apple and make it appear a little more round. I'm not sure about that really bright highlight. I might need to tone that one down. I'm not going to worry about it right now. Oh, is this one going to break? Oh, I can feel it. I got a snap in there somewhere. The pencil whisperer can feel it. Because I love these soft pencils. I can always feel when a snap is coming. Let's see, while I'm at it, I'm going to grab some more yellow and just really burst these colors up a little bit. Now we're burnishing. We're using some pressure. We're smooshing those colors together. So you wouldn't want to do this on like something as thin as copy paper because then, you know, you might tear it when you're using some pressure like this. But I mean, reasonably sturdy paper will work pretty well. Let's see, I'm just going to take a quick peek for questions because I did catch one. If you at me when you have a question, there's a much higher chance I will see it because I'm got the paper kind of far away from me. Let's see. Question from Caroline. How do you know if your pencil are wax-based or not? Well, all pencils are a combination of wax and oil. And if it has more wax than oil, they consider it wax-based. And if it has more oil than wax, it's considered oil-based. Oil-based pencils generally are a little harder and more transparent. And wax-based pencils are usually softer and they are more opaque. And there are some wax-based pencils can also have some clay in them, some oil-based pencils too. Some pencils feel a little drier and they feel almost chalky, even though they're not a chalk pastel pencil. It really doesn't matter whether your pencils are oil-based or wax-based. I would just go for the qualities that you like. There's a lot, like polychromos are probably the most popular oil-based pencils, and probably Prismacolor are the most well-known wax-based pencils. And you know, you can really use whatever you want. There's a lot of budget pencils coming out of China that are oil-based, that are, you know, if you are looking for an oil-based pencils that are very affordable, but they all have wax, they all have oil. It doesn't really matter as long as they do the job that you want them to do, you know. Let's see. I know I saw one other question there. I know I'm probably missing some, but I'll take questions a little bit later too. Would you use, Ian asked, would you use a 140-pound hot press smooth paper for doing color pencil, or is it overkill? Ian, you can use that. It'll work great. I do think it's a bit of overkill because watercolor paper is expensive because it is formulated to hold up to lots of water and abuse and scrubbing and things like that, and it's just not going to get that abuse with your pencils. But if you love it, or you just want to have one type of paper that does it all, go for it. I mean, I'm not going to tell you what to do. Pastel paper is generally cheaper. You can get a like 100% cotton drawing paper like Stonehenge for much cheaper than Arches. At least you used to be able to, or Reeves BFK. I don't know, prices might have changed. I bought so much in bulk when I was teaching before I had kids. So yeah, I could be thinking of like 1998 prices or 2001 prices and be quite off the mark. But back then anyway, the printmaking papers that are perfect for colored pencil were way cheaper than watercolor pencils. Now I'm gonna have to get to that. Oh, maybe not. Is this? Yes, this is gonna. I gotta sharpen this with the obnoxious sharpener. So if you got headphones on, take them off. Here we go. Yeah, I have a heck of a time with breakage in with a handheld sharpener, unless it's a harder pencil. That's another thing. Softer pencils just break easier. So if that's like, if you have a heavy hand, and that's something you can't stand, or you like to do a lot of layers, you're going to be happier with a harder pencil. I think anyway. But look at reviews, look at proper colored pencil artists. You take my word for anything. All right, we're gonna move up to the big balloony area of the bag. I like to jump around a little bit. And we are gonna start in by our lightest. I like to get my value range established. So I usually go for my lightest area first. Our darkest area obviously is the black of the paper. Actually, black of the pencil is a little darker than black of the paper, but well, I'm not going to be coloring the back that paper everywhere it's black, but you can go in and you can get a little darker with that pencil if you want to. So this is the whitest, this knot here. So I want to get that established right off the bat. Then I'm going to look for interesting shapes, and you can like, this is abstract, guys. This is the abstract part of the painting. You can do what you want to do. If you want to like freestyle it, you want to do some interesting, lines, have at it. This is I think the more you just kind of put the shapes down, little chicken scratch marks, the better it's going to look. Just remember, when you've got like a folded over piece, it's going to be lighter because you're seeing through several layers that are catching light. And when you get a smoothed out piece like up in here where it's nice and smooth, you're going to have less. So because it's smoother, you're seeing through one layer versus over here, you've got like the whole bag folded over itself. So you're seeing 2 layers there, 2 layers there. It looks lighter because of all the light that you're catching there. And you can make this fit your paper. So if you drew your apples really big and you're like, oh, I don't have that much room for a bag, or maybe you drew cherries in the bag and you've got all kinds of bag left, you can alter it. I'm going to do my fat lines first because my pencil's kind of blunt, and you know me, I don't like to waste pencil lead. I will take a break in a couple minutes to answer questions. So if you've asked one and I've missed it, please pop it in again. But if you can, I know it doesn't work on everything, but if you're on a computer and you can hit that ampersand sign, the @ sign, and then type in the Frugal Crafter, my name should pop up. If you click on that, it will make an orange box around my name, and it will be really easy for me to see. My computer's a bit away from me, and it's hard for me to catch everything that goes by. I should probably get my eyes checked. These thicker lines in. Also, if you kind of twist your pencil and kind of twist and drag, kind of think of how a zombie might write, that's going to give you the perfect kind of crinkly bag texture. I do that a lot for branches too. If I'm doing like a watercolor and I'm doing branches, I'll use like a liner brush and I'll just kind of like twist and drag like a zombie and get me that nice twiggy, realistic twiggy texture. So you get another little swoop of bag in there, little fold. It's very fun though. If you've not tried color pencils because you're worried that it's going to hurt your hands, if you have a friend that has pencils, that'll be the best thing. If you're worried that you just maybe you have strength issues or arthritis and you're afraid that you won't be able to maneuver them, or they might make your hands ache. If you could borrow a set from a friend, or even like take a class where they provide the supplies and you could try out a brand. Because I mean, even if you buy an expensive brand, if you buy the correct brand first, you can save yourself a lot of heartache from buying like cheap ones that might not work for you, or buying even expensive wrong ones that might not work for you. And also, I mean, if you're just impatient, you like a quicker lay down, you're going to prefer some brands over others. And there is a pencil for everybody right now. I'm telling you, there's so many options, and all budgets. All right, I am going to sharpen this and look, then I'm going to check out the questions. All right, I don't know if we have any questions in here yet. Oh, Annette is recommending the 96 set of Sharpening pencils. I've heard those are good. They're on my to try list at some point. I haven't purchased them yet, but I would be really curious. I bet they're similar to the Cezanne pencils by Creative Mark. They look a lot like that. Oh, I guess I don't really have any questions right now. All right, cool. Okay, now I'm also going to add some of that blue to the bag. Especially where it's doubled up and kind of like folded. You can even shade in a little bit. And that will help break it away from the background a little bit without imparting too much color. Really light lines when you get into this area here, because it is, it's spread out. It's still a little crinkly because it's been, tied up in a knot. So it's still a little crinkly, but not as bold, not as harsh lines. There's also a gray I used in the demo piece, so I want to get that in there as well. Gray is nice and soft. A little more pressure with the gray, I think. Maybe even shade a little bit of that in with the gray. And I'm going to use some of that in the bag. I'm going to point that pencil. I have no idea what that was on my hand. Oh, you know what? I was making waffles. Not on purpose, though. I was making spontaneous waffles because my son had gotten a waffle maker, and Lila was making waffles for lunch with it between her classes, but her class started and she had all this batter left over, and it was one of those tiny little, like, vintage looking waffle makers. And so she had all this stuff left. And of course, I hate to see anything go to waste. Even though the waffle stuff had eggs in it and I wasn't going to eat it. I'm like, well, they could be frozen and then the kids can toast them in the morning. So I was making waffles and apparently I had waffle gunk on my hands this whole time. How gross. So sorry about that, guys. right, let me take a quick look. Okay, I don't see any questions. You guys are paying attention today. You don't even have any questions. That's pretty good. Probably just know I'm not paying attention very well. Some scratchy scribbles. Can also do some little, like, kind of like hatching almost wherever you see those little bits of wrinkle here and there. All right, now I'm going to go in, I'm going to skip back down here a bit, let that sit. And I'm going to go back in with a black because I don't think I've got my values dark enough. It helps to give your eyes a break, and that could be taking a physical break from your work and, you know, coming back the next day, or it could be working on another part of your picture and then coming back and looking at where you originally were, and then you can decide whether you need to do more to it or not. And that's what I did here. More shadow in there. I'm going between looking at the reference photo and looking at the one that I did the other day to compare. I think it's so funny how you draw so differently from time to time. I want to punch up the color in that red apple. I'm going to go in with the magenta, and I am burnishing, baby. I am coloring with some oomph here. Burnishing basically means you are using force to push the layers of pencil together and making a solid passage of color. Burnishing can lead to wax bloom when you're using wax-based pencils because you have laid down so much color that that excess wax is going to rise up to the top. But don't worry, if that happens, you can polish it off gently with a tissue. Or you could spray it with fixative. That usually does it too. I usually just polish it off though. I tend not to use fixative unless I really need to isolate layers so I can put more down. But that's a personal choice. You don't have to. You can do whatever you want. They make all these products because everybody has different needs and different preferences. There's no right or wrong. Well, there's some right or wrong, but I mean, not for that. Now I'm going in with a Scarlet, and I'm blending into that yellow spot. Now this is a scratchier pencil. It's a little bit harder and it doesn't want to give it up too easily. It is not laying down too much pencil anymore. I'm going to use that warm yellow and go over my highlight area, or it's actually kind of just a yellow spot. We are using pressure. I'm going to bring this down here too. And the reason you need the yellow is because if you just went in with white to highlight, you're going to end up with a lot of pink. So you need to have that yellow. Even if you're going to go in and add white to it later, that yellow is going to prevent the pink from happening. All right, speaking of white, we can go in with a sharp white pencil, try to grab some purchase here into this yellow and let down a little color. And do some there. We can get a little bit of a highlight there. And if any of your folds in the bag need to be brightened up, you can do that at this point too. I had that white out a little too far, so I'm bringing it in with a little bit of red, magenta, and black. Don't be afraid to do some minor adjustments. I mean, you want to start with an accurate drawing, but sometimes you gotta adjust something, and that's not a big deal. You know, I don't think I've used any yellow ochre yet, but I feel like I'm missing some warmth in this apple up here. especially around that little stem or blossom or whatever you call that. It'll be a nice color to add into the highlights as well around the two apples. All right, I gotta hold this up at a distance. Okay, we're doing all right. Sometimes it's hard to tell how your picture looks when you're so close to it. All right, I don't know if I think my chat stopped. Oh my gosh, I was so far behind, guys. Oh my word. Can you recommend a good true red color pencil? Avis asks. Yes, Derwent Red. It's called Derwent Red. It's in their Lightfast line. It is, they consider the Derwent Lightfast to be an oil-based pencil, but to me, it feels very much like a wax-based pencil because of the opacity. I love the Derwent Lightfast line. It is pricey, but Blick has had them on sale for like $2.05 a pencil. I was missing 4 colors and I just ordered them. So I think the sale is still on, but they're regular like $4. So they are pricey, but they are wonderful and they're guaranteed to last 100 years under their artwork done with them are guaranteed to last 100 years with like museum conditions. So that's important to you, all the more reason. But that is my favorite red, I think, red pencil is Derwent Red in the Lightfast line. They might have it in other lines too. Like I have a set of Colorsoft, but they're older. I don't know if maybe they've changed any of the colors. Sometimes that happens, you know, a company changes colors. Or they update it because they find a pigment that will work better, or the pigment stores run out of a certain color. But that's a good one. They should have put that one in this one, I think. But I have a feeling that it's probably an expensive color because it's in the Lightfast range and it's a Lightfast color. So that's probably why. It's probably not in any of their other ranges. My apologies if I missed any other questions, but we'll do another question break at the end. We're getting pretty close here. It's neat because like when you're doing a picture like this, it can look like a mess, and then you look away, and then you look back at it, and you're like, oh my gosh, it's done, you know. But it takes a while, you know, to be able to see it. Let's get some brighter highlights. I probably will use a little bit of Gamsol in there. Some more blue. I think I will do a little hazy shading with the blue there. Just so I have something. You got to have something down. If you try to use the odorless mineral spirits and you don't have very much pigment, it's going to be kind of a disappointing experience. The other nice thing about odorless mineral spirits is that it can remove some of the wax, so you can lay down more color, which is really handy. All right, so the two brushes I typically use for odorless mineral spirits they're a couple synthetics. It's I think this is about a number 4 filbert, so it's got the rounded top, so you get the nice kind of no brush stroke look like you would from around, but it's a flat. The ferrule is flat, so you get that push that you would get from a flat brush. I also have a little round brush. It's probably like a number. It says it's a 0 Magenta all media round. These are both Royal and 9 nickel brushes, golden Taklons. And I don't use it too often, but sometimes it's really handy if I need to get in a small spot. I generally am using this small filbert. And the cotton balls in there keeps me from getting too much. And also I can clean my brush off on the cotton balls. So this isn't going to be like some wow, crazy, super, I don't know, super impressive effect. This is basically, I'm just going to be smudging some of these, this color out and making it more translucent. In fact, I might need a smidgen more. Oh no, I got plenty in there. Gamsol. Now I don't use the same Gamsol container for like oil pastels, and I used it for crayons the other day, and I had to change the cotton balls. Color pencils shouldn't really dirty those cotton balls too much. You can keep them for months and months, but if you're going to use oil pastel or Gamsol or crayon, something thick like that, where you're putting down the thicker amounts of color, I would use a hog or a synthetic hog brush, and I would just use a jar of like paint thinner, like the kind you clean your brushes with, because it's going to really dirty it up. You don't want to do that with your pencils, because if you're using like a jar of paint thinner that you use to clean your brushes too, you're going to see that sediment that's going to, you know, get on your art. But something like oil pastels, which just has so much body to it anyway, it's not really going to make that much of a difference as long as it's like relatively clean mineral spirits. I'm just softening these. See how much softer these are versus this? These scribbles look like scribbles. This looks a lot more hazier and soft. So that's what we're doing here. It's subtle. It's not a big deal. It's not a big, you know, wow moment or anything. I mean, there's something that could get Lindsay into trouble. Oh no. What are you guys up to? I have been waiting like for since the 15th of this month. I uploaded a video that I want to premiere because it's long. It's a card making video, and it's really fun because then I get to hang out and I can actually see the chat. Because when I'm live streaming, usually I can't pay too much attention to the chat while I'm broadcasting. So it's really fun to premiere videos sometimes. And I have this issue with any long video that I've tried to upload to Premiere, is that like the audio will play fine, but like after about an hour in, it'll like freeze every few seconds. But the audio keeps going. It's the weirdest thing. And then it takes weeks for it to like clear up to play fine. And the file plays fine off my computer. I've even re-uploaded stuff at a lower quality to see if that's like the issue, and it just seems like nothing but time will fix it. It's the strangest thing. And I don't know why YouTube does it. And I actually contacted their support through their, you know, live support feature in like the YouTube Studio dashboard, which I'm like 99.9% sure I talked to a robot, because they didn't even like, it's like they didn't even understand what I was asking. It's like, no, it's not my internet connection that's making videos play bad. It's something on your end. So frustrating. But anyways, luckily it's not like a time sensitive video, so I can wait for it to do its thing. It's just kind of frustrating. I don't know what brought that on. Talking about random stuff. If you feel like your apples are not smooth enough and you want them to be a little bit smoother, you can go in there with the Gamsol and you can just kind of merge those colors together a little bit. Now just be careful that, you know, be very thoughtful where you put that brush down, because don't go like that. You're going to ruin the where you've assigned those colors. So I'm like going in between the folds of the bag when I do this, so that I don't mess up those values. I don't smear those colors around. Just you know, just go easy. But that will let you put on more color if you're not happy with how bright your colors have been so far. And I want to do that up here too, mainly because I want to get a little bit more color on there. But if you're having, if you're struggling to get the look you want with odorless mineral spirits or any other solvent, it's probably that you don't have enough color down. Because otherwise you're just gonna be breaking up a little bit of puny amount of color there, and it's not gonna do anything. If I was working on white paper and I was gonna do a lot of this technique, I would just do watercolor pencils for the first layer. I would liquefy it, then I would go with color pencil, because it will save so much time and so much pencil. You'd think there was a pencil shortage with the amount of pencil conservation I like to do. And there is not. And holy cow, not only is there no pencil shortage, but the prices of pencils have been crazy low lately. All right, so when I'm done, I wipe my brush on a clean part of the cotton ball, make sure that I get any debris out, and then I just close this down. This is a tiny little mason jar like shot glass that my niece Rachel got me when she was on vacation in Las Vegas. It is the best thing for these. So if you ever like are in some junk shop and you or some souvenir shop and you see like a little mason jar with a little latch lid like that, buy one for your cotton balls, because I don't know of anything else that's so airtight. I went like almost a year with the same cotton balls and Gamsol in there because it seals up so good. So yes, you can conserve your Gamsol as well. Yes, Gamsol, odorless mineral spirits are all the same. I think in Europe they use a product called Zest It a lot. I've never used that, but that's what most of the color pencil artists over there use. So you want to let it dry before you go on and add another layer, especially if you're doing something like, if you were doing like a portrait or something where you really needed a smooth effect. In this bag, it's really not gonna make a difference, but I do want to tell you the right things to do, the right way to do things, even if I'm going to go ahead and, you know, just do it anyway, because it's not really going to make that much of a difference in this. But if you are doing that, definitely let that dry before you go on. You could end up damaging the tooth of the paper if you go in wet. You go on over the wet paper with your pencils. Same thing with like watercolor pencils. You won't want to go on wet paper with watercolor pencils unless you want like super harsh lines, because you're going to scratch the paper a little bit, and it's going to leave behind a mark, which could work for what you want. If you're trying to make like branches or grasses that are really bold, that's going to work great for you. You want a really dark line, that's going to work great for you. But for like, you just need to make sure if you are doing something a little off book that you know the effect that you're trying to get. It's a nice little crease going in there I want to show. And, you know, bottom line is, if you're not happy with your picture, you're not done yet. You know, just keep on going. Every painting has a hot mess stage. It has that point where you're like, oh man, how am I going to save this? Every single one has that stage. So you're just not done yet. You know, put it away. You set it aside, go take a break, go for a walk, go work on something else, come back to it. You'll figure it out. The answer will come to you eventually. Can feel like a long time, but it will eventually come. And I usually will like putter around on a painting a little bit more. You know, it'll be sitting on my easel, because that's where I usually throw my paintings. I stick up to my easel. It's the only thing I use my easel for, quite frankly. So they started doing YouTube, I never work on an easel. I just set it up there, and then I look at it, and, you know, I'll, you know, stand back, look at it. It just takes some time sometimes to figure out what the heck is wrong with it and what you could do to improve it. Okay, I still feel like I need some brighter white, so, because I'm also looking at my reference, my painting, and I'm looking at my reference photo. Just thinking, what did I like about that? What didn't I like? What would I change? And I want some more thicker, bolder white. By the way, you probably all know this, but if you don't, Joe Maskey, our fabulous moderator, has a group on Facebook called Lindsay's Frugalites, and people will share their artwork done in the live streams and other tutorials, and it's a great community. And Joe said I could mention it. He's not going to get bombarded. Well, got a little bombarded last time, I guess, but that's awesome. It's so nice to see so many people that are really into art and sharing. There's an awful lot of junk on Facebook. It's nice when there's something positive. I want this nice little turn here, so I got to keep adding in some more white. All right. Oh, you know what? While I've got this white out, I'm just feeling this with the back of my hand. It does not feel cool to the touch, so it should be dry. Remember, we've been like working at this poorly placed highlight. Now we're finally eking it up where it belongs. It would be nice to be one of those perfect people that like draws highlights in the right spot every time. There we go. Oh, that's better. Oh, what a difference that makes. All right. And some more highlights on our little bag creases here. Layers make a big difference, I think, from something just being colored in to something having like life. We're looking, I mean, and I know it seems like, oh, 24 colors, I don't think that's enough, you know, and it can be a little, oh, I think a lot of times beginners are like, I can only afford a, you know, a 12 set. I can only afford a 24 set of colors. And they think, well, I can't make the artwork that I'm seeing people make on YouTube or I'm seeing people make on Instagram because I don't have enough. But honestly, with a smaller limited supply, you probably will do better and you'll learn more because you're going to have to mix and you're going to have to layer and you're going to have to do all those things that people that have, you know, 120 colors, 72 colors don't have to bother doing. So don't ever feel bad if you can't afford like the biggest set of something, or don't ever feel bad if you don't want to have the biggest set of something because it takes up a lot of space or you don't want to spend that much money on that supply. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, it's fun to go buy the big box of crayons. I get it. I know. But it's unnecessary a lot of the times. And then you'll often find that you're going to feel so resourceful. You're going to feel so good that you could figure out how to do it with less that you're going to be glad that you didn't get that bigger set. Now that said, you're going to run, your pencils are going to be short stubbies a lot sooner because, you know, you're going to be relying on all those basic colors to mix all your other colors. But it's also a good way to realize what colors you actually use, and then you can determine if you are using them up and maybe all that mixing, you might decide that, well, you know, I could save some time if I got a few more pale shades or this or that, or I could say, you know, if I got some pastels, I wouldn't have to use my white so much. But you can determine that after you have after you've kind of exhausted those limited supplies. I do like a big box of pencils, don't get me wrong. And in fact, if there was a larger set of the Chromaflow, I'd be thrilled. But you know, it's certainly not necessary. It will take you a little bit longer when you have to blend and mix everything, but it sure is fun, and it does feel good to do it. You know, it does feel good to figure it out. All right, I think we are just about done. I did want to punch up my red. One of the reasons I use the mineral spirits here, so I could get a little bit more oomph on my red. It's not going to get like super bright, but it will appear to be bright enough with our values. Values are how light or dark something is. Saturation is how dull or bright something is. So even though there's only so much I can do with the saturation here on black paper, if I get my values where they need to be, it'll appear like it's a bright, like tomato red color. You just got to balance those values out. I love this yellow. Sun yellow? No, this one's amber gold. That's pretty. I love a warm yellow. I tend to be a little on the more opaque side too, which is nice. A little bit of that color in our edges. A little bit down here. We can put a little bit of red down there too. Little reflections. Next light glass a little bit. Okay. All right, guys. I think that if you guys have some questions, pop them in the chat, and I will take a look at them. I'm going to put a few more highlights on here, and then I'm going to have a look, see if anybody has any burning questions. This is pretty self-explanatory. I think it was a pretty self-explanatory project. I have no idea how long we've been drawing today. Total time warp down here. It's like a casino sometimes. I have no windows. I've got no windows, and you know, you get the right brain going. You don't know how long you've spent doing your art. You forget to have lunch. Well, I don't forget to have lunch. So I hear people do. Apparently my stomach can override my My right brain. I think that looks all right. Let's see. I gotta compare them. I had more white on this, the original one. And I had more white up there too. I do think I like that. But you know, at the time I was like kind of regretting how light I had the plastic bag. I got something on my, oh, okay, it's something underneath there. Yeah, you know, you can fuss with it, you can add more to it until you're happy with it. Or you can leave it alone and, you know, let it breathe for a couple of days and then decide what you really want to add to it. But I think I'm going to call it done. I think definitely all the techniques you need, you have learned. And I'm going to take a look and see if there are any final questions before we go. Oh my gosh, if I can read the computer way over there. I'm using the Derwent Chromaflows. Jen asked that question. Maria says, for all Lindsay says she's not a colored pencil artist, she's the reason I'm wanting to try colored pencils again after many years of photorealistic artist dominating the colored pencil scene. Well, thank you, Maria. That's awfully nice. Carmen asks, are the Prisma pencil color fast? They're color fast. So color fast means they don't wash away. They are water resistant. Yeah, Prismacolors are probably the most water resistant pencil. Most pencils, your bright red though, will have a little bit of movement, and I think it's just because the amount of pigment you need versus binder for certain really, really bright colors, the colors are almost a little underbound. But even so, even their red in Prismacolor is like 99%, you're not going to get any movement. You might get just a little ghosting, but you have to really be dousing it. They're very, very, very color fast. Light fast, you have to, I would definitely look up their light fast ratings. Not all colors are light fast. The only range I know that has complete light fast colors would be Derwent Light Fast. I do believe Luminance is close from Caran d'Ache, but I don't think every single color in the Luminance range is 100% light fast. But I don't have those, so I don't know. I haven't really looked into them too much because they're so expensive here, and I'm really happy with the Derwent Light Fast. But you know, a lot of times with Prismacolor pencils, I'm doing stuff in Sketchbook, or I have watercolor underneath it, and this is just to kind of like flesh out a color, like give it a little more body. So even if the pencil faded a little bit, it really wouldn't denigrate the artwork. So you know, if you're absolutely, that needs to be 100 year light fast artwork you're doing, check out the Derwent Light Fast or the Caran d'Ache Luminance. Somebody was asking for a link to the Facebook group, but I think Joe posted it. Ian posted the photo in the chat. It's also in the video description too. Somebody said, Astrogali says, I never understood the ugly stage of watercolor painting until Lindsay mentioned them. Oh, they all have ugly stages. Let's see. Penny's asking, where's the photo from? Hope we can use it. Absolutely, Penny. When I'm using a photo reference, I check. I make sure it's from a commercial use website where it's a copyright free. Well, it's commercial use, meaning it's royalty free, and you can use it without payment. For my tutorials, that's what I use, unless I'm using something from the artist photo reference books. And in that case, I link up the books in case anybody wants to buy it. But that's not as frequently. I usually look for Unsplash or Pixabay or Pexels first, because those are all royalty-free images for people to use without having to pay anything or worry about being sued. So that's what I do for my tutorials, so nobody has to worry about that. Of course, if somebody uploaded something in error, then, you know, we're all in the same sinking boat there, I guess. I think we just have to take our stuff down, but Horsewoman says, do as Lindsay says, not as she does. Yep, good real thumb. Oh, somebody found that jar on Amazon, but you have to buy it in bulk. Well, Gail, if you found those in bulk, you should talk to your friends in the chat and see if anybody wants to go splitsies with you. Christina's asking how Sarah is. I haven't talked to Sarah in so long. I invited her to a couple of virtual craft nights that we had with some of our local friends, but because we're still, I haven't gotten my vaccine yet, so I'm still a hermit. But I haven't heard back from her, so I assume she's good. I haven't talked to her in a couple weeks. Last time I saw her, we had met at the school in the big baseball field to let our dogs run around and play, because our dogs like to run around with each other. But man, yeah, I think she's pretty busy with her and her husband own an RV shop, a repair shop. I think they've been pretty busy with that. The pandemic has really gotten people interested in RVing. Insana was asking what I dipped my brush in. This is Gamsol, or also known as odorless mineral spirits. Gamsol has no odor. I like that. That's what I use, but I do keep only a little bit out in this, just enough to saturate like 3 cotton balls, and I keep it sealed up when I'm not actively using it, because even though it's odorless, I still think there's probably fumes floating around, and I am in a fairly small office with no ventilation unless I open the door, which I don't tend to do until it gets warmer out, or I do at the end of the day, but let it air out at the end of the day. I just realized I have my grungy old sweatshirt in front of the camera. That's probably pleasant to look at. Let's see. Deborah asks if I have any recommendations for a white pen. Mine always dry up. Yeah, I do actually. Oh shoot, I can't show you because my daughter Lila took all my acrylic paint pen display up to her room and was using them. I like the Posca extra fine white pen. It's an acrylic based white pen. They don't say it's acrylic based, but it's acrylic based. I'm like 99.9% sure. And it's got a really fine tip. I really like it because I refill mine with. I either use the Chromacryl Blockout White with water, or from out of that I use like any opaque white ink, acrylic ink, to refill it, and it works great, and I just keep refilling it. I have a few of them. They're not that expensive either, but I just try to avoid the waste if I can. You can find them on Amazon or Blick. Amazon usually has the best price of those. They come in a 3-pack, and I think it's around $11. Or I like the Uniball Signo white gel pen, the broad. I find it doesn't clog, and it gives me a nice bold line. And I've tried a lot of different pens. I don't care for the Arteza and the Jelly Rolls as much. Those two are very similar, the Arteza and Jelly Roll. So if you like one, you'll probably like the other. But I've had issues with everything except for the Posca white extra fine paint pen and the Uniball Signo broad. And it could just be that particular, or it could be the climate that I live in. But those have been my best bets. I'm just scrolling back, guys. Thank you for your patience. We are done the demo portion, so if you're just hanging out worried you're gonna miss something fantastic, this is it. This is as good as it gets, guys. I'm done with the project. I'm just looking to see if anybody has any other question. Okay, I think I've caught up to where I was before, so now I'm gonna go back to the end and see what I've missed. Okay, Carmen is asking for an alternative to a Micron, the Sakura Micron. I find the Biennial brand Microns, they're a lot cheaper, and they seem to last a lot longer, for me anyway. And also, the Faber-Castell Pitt pens are not as fine as the Microns, so they seem to hold up for me a lot better than the Microns. So either of those, I'd say whatever you can find affordably. Both the Biennial Microns and the Pitt pens are available on Amazon. And then the Pitt pens will be available at any art supply store, I think. So you should be able to find one of those fairly affordably. They're both cheaper than Microns. Ian's asking, how do I find the opacity of the white pencil? It's very opaque. I would say it's opaque as the Chinese white. It's good. It's let me see. I got my Prismacolor swatch right here. Do I have a little? Let me do the back of this. I'll do it versus Prismacolor. So this is the Chromaflow, and then I'll do my Prismacolor white, and you can see how they. Prismacolor might be just a smidgen brighter, but boy, it's awfully close. The Prismacolor is a little bit slicker feeling, a little bit softer. So these are slightly firmer than Prismacolor, in case that's important. But maybe the Prismacolor is just also a smidgen cooler as well in temperature, but very good. I like it. So Derwent does a good white pencil. All right, I'm scrolling back up. So if you've posted a question, I'm kind of going back and up so I don't miss any. Carmen says, thank you. I did want to know about Light Fast. Okay. Oh yeah, when I answered the Color Fast question. And these do not have any Light Fast ratings on them at the moment. I don't know if they're going to do those tests for these pencils, because that's an expensive thing. I would think if they're going to offer them open stock, they probably would do the Light Fast testing, but I don't know. I don't know what their plans are for these pencils, so it'll be interesting to see. They're very similar to Color Soft. I think I prefer the Color Soft just because of the size of the pencil and I had a little more breakage with these than Color Soft. But I think, I have no breakage with the proper size hole in my electric sharpener though. So, if you don't have a tiny hole sharpener, it might be kind of a problem. Well, thank you guys so much for joining. I think that I think I've caught up. I do appreciate you coming here at the kind of last minute notice. I am streaming from my phone now, so gosh, I hope the battery is holding up. Because they changed how it goes in YouTube, and I haven't been able to work with my encoder. It hasn't worked with it, and when I did stream from my computer the last couple times, I had quality issues. So this seems to be giving me a more reliable quality. Thank you so much for watching. If you're watching the replay and you have questions, feel free to leave them in the comments section underneath the video. The reference photo and products I used are linked up in the video description. And I think that's it. Thank you guys so much. And as always, happy crafting.